Hello, friends. We're currently in the season of Hephaestus. That is to say, we're currently in Leo 1. And for a variety of technical reasons, the poetry that I usually release at this time is not quite ready. I need to set aside some more time for typing it up and putting it into the correct format. So I figured I would make a short video about memory of image, which is something that we've talked about in the Deccan's Walk course, and as a way of building a skill set that helps you become a more effective astrological magus. Let's talk a little bit about how memory of image works before we go into the piece that we're memorizing in this particular lesson. In memory of image, you're looking at a text and you build up in your mind a set of pictures which help create a set of strong associations between the text that you are memorizing and the visual pictures that help support that memorization. So we create a set of images in our mind, and if you want, you can Google a set of pictures. I can't do that because, of course, this is images are subject to copyright law. But I can at least give you some idea of the kind of images that you're looking for if you were going to memorize a specific text associated with Leo 1, namely the Orphic Hymn to Hephaestus. Now, I'm in the process of memorizing this myself. Strong, mighty Vulcan, bearing splendid light, unwearied fire with flaming torrents bright, strong-handed, deathless, and of art divine, pure element, a portion of the world is thine. 'Tis thine, all-taming artist, all diffusive power. 'Tis thine supreme all substance to devour. Ether, sun, moon, and stars, light pure and clear, for these thy lucid parts to men appear. To thee all dwellings, cities, tribes belong, diffused through mortal bodies, pure and strong. Here blessed power to holy rites incline, and all propitious on the incense shine. Suppress the rage of fire's unwearied frame, and still preserve our nature's vital frame. Flame. It's frame and flame. That's the text that we're looking at, and this is the Orphic Hymn to Hephaestus, translated by Thomas Taylor and published in 1775. Incense or fumigation from frankincense and manna. So in memory of image, we have to break this text down into very specific pictures that we carry around in our minds, and those pictures help us form a really critical idea about how the world works. And by world here, I mean the poem that we are trying to memorize. Let's look at this in a little bit more detail. The first thing that I do is I start to break down what the set of rhymes are. If I've got a rhyming poem, I start by looking at the rhymes. So we've got light, bright, divine, thine, power, devour, clear, appear, belong, strong, incline, shine, frame, flame. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of rhymes. So we've got 14 lines. And that helps us fix in our mind that we are memorizing 14 lines with 7 rhymes. And it helps us sort of know where the lines end if we've got a sense of what the rhyme scheme is. So light, bright, divine, thine, power, devour, clear, appear, belong, strong, incline, shine, frame, flame. Ta-da. Now I can go to the first pair of lines. Strong, mighty Vulcan, bearing splendid light, unwearied fire with flaming torrents bright. So strong and mighty. Now, it's pretty easy for us to imagine somebody who's pretty strong. We can look at the actor who played the Mountain on Game of Thrones. We can look at bodybuilders like Arnold Schwarzenegger. We are surrounded by pictures of what a strong person looks like. And maybe we can also make that image super energetic and super abundant in order to convey the sense of mighty. Or you can imagine a little flea, a mite, and put it on the shoulder of the figure of Vulcan. So we've got Vulcan and a little mite sitting on his shoulder, and he's super strong and he's making biceps. Now, this is highly individualistic, but Vulcan is associated with mechanics, and he's associated with mechanical processes, and he's associated with machines. So it's a really easy thing for me to go from Vulcan to ball bearing, and a ball or one of those rings that's filled with ball bearings. And that's what I have imagined here for bearing, is that I've got a ring of ball bearings, and instead of it being greased with axle grease, there is a Splenda little paper packet of sugar alternative, a Splenda light, L-I-T-E, pouring into that. So strong, mighty, with a little flea, bearing splendid light. He's got a bearing in one hand that he's holding, like the weapon that Xena uses in the TV show, and it's greased with Splenda, and particularly Splenda light, in order to make it function better. Of course, a bearing that was greased with that wouldn't function at all, but it gives you an image to play with. And it's memorable because you know that it wouldn't work, but in your imagination, you can make it work. Unwearied fire. Now, to me, a weir is a kind of basket. It is the kind of basket that you put into the water in order to catch fish. The water flows through it, but the weir, the loosely woven basketry, catches the fish. Lobster traps, for example, are a kind of weir. So unwearied fire. We've got a weir, and there is a fire on top of it, but the fire has escaped from the weir and it's not in the weir. So that's the image that I use there. And again, it's the idea of a machine, a mechanism, a clever bit of human ingenuity that I'm building into the image of Hephaestus. Flaming torrents. Now, a torrent is a waterfall, or a fast-moving flow of water. So maybe I'm imagining a water wheel with water pouring over it. But I can also imagine the icon for BitTorrent from a decade or so ago, and that icon is on fire and it's giving off a lot of light. So those are the kinds of images that I have, right? I've got Vulcan, who's strong. He's got a mite on his shoulder. He's got a ball-bearing ring in one hand, and it's greased with Splenda light. And maybe the other hand is holding this weir that the fire has escaped from. And maybe he's got the BitTorrent logo over him, or maybe there's a water wheel sort of clenched under one shoulder and the water wheel is going. And I have a lot of images of mechanisms and machinery around Hephaestus, which are helping me form a strong memory of this. Strong-handed. Well, you got those grippers that you can use in order to strengthen your grip, and maybe you can imagine bracers of some kind on his wrists so that his hands get really strong and deathless. He is standing on a coffin that has one of those big red X's with a circle around it, saying no death, and of art divine. And here I was having a lot of trouble with this line, so I imagined the young Arthur from the Disney movie. This is why copyright makes it impossible for me to show a set of images. But I've got the young Arthur from the Sword in the Stone Disney movie, and he is chomping away vines from the castle walls. Pure element. Here I have got an imaginary periodic table of the elements. So it is as pure as it can get. It is, I only have the information about it. I don't have any of the actual elements. A portion of the world is thine. I was having a hard time with this, so I imagined the world from one of those cake videos where you cut into a thing and you try to determine if it's cake or if it's a real thing. And in this case, it's a globe, and it looks like it's a real world, except that a chunk of it has been cut out of it, and you can see that it is cake. Again, technology, ovens, baking, the sophistication of knowing the combination of ingredients, and Hephaestus is taking a portion of the world. All taming artist. So now I've got my image of Hephaestus, and now he's got like a Bob Ross style easel next to him, and he's got a paint palette, and all of the lions around this are bowing down. Now, why are there lions? I don't know, but he's taming the animals, and the animals are standing around the artist's easel, and he's in control of them because he's an artist. All diffusive power. And then I sort of spread thousands and thousands of these strong, mighty, bearing splendor light Hephaestus is all over the world. And then I group them in threes like the Supremes. All substance to devour. For some reason, the idea of the Supremes devouring everything, you know, the Supremes sitting at a dinner table and just eating everything in sight, that came fairly easily to me. Ether, sun, moon, and stars, light, pure, and clear. This is a pretty strong image all by itself. So this line may come to you pretty easily, but you may have to imagine the space between the sun, moon, and stars filled with some kind of weird crystal-like liquid, which is what ether originally meant. Sun, moon, and stars, light, pure, and clear, you know, suffused with light, sparkling with energy. For these thy lucid parts to men appear. And here I can take those ball-bearing devices that are lubricated with Splenda light and make them out of lucite to help me remember the word lucid. To thee all dwellings, cities, tribes belong. So I've got sort of a 5-pointed box, houses, dwellings. And some people may have problems with the word dwelling, so maybe your box is made out of copies of Dwell magazine, which is an architecture magazine. You can go into a Barnes and Noble or other bookstore and see copies of Dwell on the magazine shelves. And then you can take the skyline of several different cities. You can take London with Big Ben, and Seattle with the Seattle Needle, and the CN Tower in Toronto, and the Empire State Building for New York City, and the Golden Gate Bridge for San Francisco, and sort of combine them into a joint image and say cities, tribes. Tribes may come easily once you think about dwellings, cities, tribes. And the thing that I like about this is that it suggests that Hephaestus is the manager of the technologies that are required for household organization, for civic management, and also for tribal groupings of various kinds. Like, he's not just a god of technology, he is a god of the techniques that weave together human beings, right? In several different organizational structures. Diffused through mortal bodies, bright and strong. This line was fairly easy for me to get, so you may have trouble thinking of this, but diffused, maybe you're imagining all of your Hephaestuses with little fuses coming out of their heads, and it's lit, and mortal bodies are plucking the fuses out and disarming this particular trap. Here blessed power, or here blessed power. I think blessed works a little bit better here. And maybe some of your Hephaestus figures are doing the sign of the cross, or they're doing a five-pointed star, but one way or another, they are blessing. To holy rites incline. So I'm sort of imagining Hephaestus sliding down an inclined plane or going down a slide at a playground toward, religious figures performing some kind of a ceremony. And all propitious on the incense shine. And here I'm imagining a prop, a propeller from an old style airplane with avocado pits on the ends of it, or being used to chop up avocado pits and turn them into incense, which is glossy from the oils inside of the avocados. Again, the images don't have to make a whole lot of sense. They just have to be strong enough and visual enough that you're able to hold on to them. Suppress the rage of fire's unwearied frame. So a fire suppression system, and Hephaestus is getting mad, but he's sort of keeping control over his furnace, and the furnace, instead of being an enclosed shelter of some kind, is more like one of those systems that's built out of cast iron pipe or something, and it's got the fire bricks supported in a cast iron or a welded iron framework of some kind to keep it off the ground and still preserve. So I'm kind of imagining Hephaestus doing some canning in a water bath here to remember the word preserve. And nature, vital flame. So I'm imagining a fire inside of myself. So how does this work? Strong, mighty Vulcan. The thing didn't, the computer setup didn't work properly, so I'm just going to go on here. Strong, mighty Vulcan, bearing splendid light. So strong, mighty Vulcan, bearing splenda light, unwearied fire with flaming torrents bright, strong-handed, deathless, and of art divine, pure element, a portion of the world is thine, all taming artist, all diffusive power. 'Tis thine supreme all substance to devour. Ether, sun, moon, and stars, light pure and clear. Oh, see, I've lost it. For these thy lucid parts to men appear. To thee all dwellings, cities, tribes belong, diffused through mortal bodies, bright and strong. Come, blessed power. No, hear, blessed power, touching the ear. Hear, blessed power, to holy rites incline. And all propitious on the incense shine. Suppress the rage of fire's unwearied frame, and still preserve our nature's vital frame. I've still got work to do in terms of being able to memorize this poem, but you begin to see how these things combine, right? We're using a sense of image, and we're using a sense of connecting those images to ideas around Hephaestus, and that helps build up a picture in our mind and makes it easier and faster to memorize new poetry and new texts and new information of various kinds. I think it's one of the great powers that we have in magic, and I wish that more people would make use of it. Thanks for watching, and thank you to my Patreons, and thank you to the people on Patreon who support me and help me create content